This is for all my mining buddies out there, all my mining fans. I haven't done really a series over mining for the most part. Everything's been kind of, ratting and things like that. But this is kind of a different series that I've kind of had in my head for a while. And the idea behind this is just mining as enjoyment, right? And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be progressing through Omega, through ship upgrades, everything through just in-game activities. So no real money drop, nothing like that. We're going to save up quite a bit towards our our first month of Omega because she is alpha still right now. This character, if you've been watching the channel for a while, this character is actually the original alpha character from the Alpha Project, and she's already been trained. She's like 6 million skill points and everything. But let's go ahead and I'm gonna go ahead and get her on grid though right now, real quick. I'm not really gonna try to like cut this or speed anything up in this series, nothing like that. We're gonna essentially try. I'm gonna try to show kind of in real time what a I don't know, just data, how I do mining essentially. Because when I first started playing, I was high sec miner for a while, more longer than I really wanted to admit. But I think a lot of people out there who enjoy mining as just kind of like their main gameplay activity might find some enjoyment in seeing how I kind of do things. And for me, it's just kind of a nice break from everything else. So we're just going to go ahead and I actually have a nav here already. One of the big thing is if you don't have a lot of drone skills and things in the beginning, I try to mine in either a sec level 1 or like a point 0.9 because you will not get rats on the grid. Meaning that, we are carrying drones in this venture, but we can go out here and we can mine and we don't have to worry about killing rats, which isn't necessarily a big thing. Once you actually get drones, then it's pretty simple. But the one big thing I will say about just mining in general is, especially in the beginning, have your lasers on a rock for the most part all the time. We're already going to be pretty. Our income's not going to be that great in the beginning. I mean, one full venture of Veldspar is going to be like 500,000. So we've got a long way to go in saving up for Omega. And really, Omega is just going to allow us to kind of position ourselves where we can essentially just get that first month of Omega, get into a Procure or Retriever, and just kind of blitz, right? We want to be able to use the majority of that Omega time to really up our earning. So this being episode 1 of this series, I'm going to go over quite a bit of information. Subsequent episodes, we'll be just, hanging out on the belt, mining, and I'll try to drop as much, knowledge and just kind of about mining and everything in general. But I'm just going to kind of give everybody a baseline for where we're starting at as far as fit and everything like that. And we'll go ahead and kind of look at her fit as well. Like I said, this character's been around for a while, so she's technically what you'd consider a Tech 2 Venture Miner. So she's got Miner level 2s, or Miner Tech 2s. And then we've got a Mining Laser Upgrade 2, and then just Kinetic Hardener, and then a Survey Scanner, and then just a 1 MN Afterburner. Nothing fancy here at all. So the big goal is just kind of get as much. So essentially what I end up doing in these situations is I'll go out and I'll mine Veldspar because it's more readily available. One jump out of Jita. So we're going to go out there, we're going to put lasers on either dense, condensed, or dense, or just regular Veldspar, and we're just going to just fill up. And they'll immediately just go to Jita and drop it off. I'm not even going to be selling ore during the first probably several episodes of this series. We'll see how far we go and everything, but the idea is I'm just going to be stockpiling everything that we mine, because one interesting thought I had, thinking back when I mined a lot in high sec was, if I would have just saved every piece of ore that I ever mined back in the day, I would love to know what that number was, or like not just like in the cubic meter sense, but like just in the ISK sense. Now, for me, when I first started playing, I blasted through So I was injecting, got Omega maybe like after the first week or so of playing. So I didn't spend a lot of time in just adventure, just kind of slow grinding it because I was just ready to, move into that next ship and just kind of better everything. We're going to go a little bit slower on that this time around. And for anybody who's not into mining as a preferred hobby, this is probably not going to be a series for you because this is essentially what miners do for the most part. Is we get out on these grid and we just kind of mine rocks all day, right? And we just kind of stack it. And it's going to be kind of repetitive here in the beginning, but we're going to be moving pretty quick through. Hopefully we'll be moving pretty quick through our progression here. So let's look at this ship tree real quick, kind of give an idea of the where we're going to go with everything while we're mining. And so I'm going to try not to if I'm doing any sort of talking or any sort of guidance as far as mining strategies or tactics, I'm going to be always making sure I'm on lasers. The goal is we're not going to try to sit in Jita and just kind of ramble on about mining. We always want to kind of have those lasers running. So right now we're in the venture, as you already know. Our next goal essentially is going to be getting past this Omega gate. And then once we get there, we're going to try to position ourselves in a way that we are ready to go straight into the Procurer and or the Retriever. So let's go ahead and kind of speculate a little bit. Let's go ahead and kind of simulate a Retriever here. We're going to look at kind of where we're at. So we're looking at about 3 days on that. We're going to have to basically save up some cash and everything and buy the skills. These skills are only going to be used as Omegas. So we can buy them, but we can't train them. But the idea is we have everything kind of in place. So when we turn on Omega, we can immediately start training all this stuff. Retriever is, if we can, the Retriever is going to be kind of like our first ship to go into just because it allows us to stay on grid a little bit longer. And it has a bigger price point, obviously. But through Project Discovery, we're not going to be selling any ore initially. A lot of what I'm going to be doing to save up for the Procure or the Retriever is going to be doing Project Discovery. So that's just to sit in the Retriever. So what we can do is we can actually go and kind of start speculating on all this a little bit. So we're going to try to get in. We're going to be Strip Miner 1 in the beginning, just because we're going to want to try to get into modulated strip miners, but that takes a little bit more skill as far as getting the right skills for the crystals. So really our goal is just to get into the ship and be able to operate. So strip miner 1s, which doesn't actually add anything to our train time. And then I'm going to be stacking miner laser 2s down here. We are already actually able to use these, so it actually doesn't add to this either. And then we'll probably be moving down in security level, so we'll probably try to get somewhere in the 0.5 area, just so we have Plague, we have Pyro, we have kind of the good spread of ore to kind of choose from, because we're essentially going to be holding ore and stacking it all in Jita, and we don't necessarily want all of Eldspar, because if we do decide to either just sell it all, we want to kind of be diversified a little bit. So if Eldspar is really down at one point, then but Plague is really good, we can kind of offload Plague, right? So just kind of keeping our stockpile as diversified as possible. Retriever is a little bit weird as far as mid slots go. There's not a lot we can do as far as tank. Cargo scanner is nice. That's a cargo scanner. Survey scanner is actually nice because we're able to kind of look at what rocks are big, and that allows us to actually put strip miners on rocks and let them stay on there for a while. It would be the difference between putting a strip miner on a 2,700 cubic meter rock as opposed to a 10,000 cubic meter rock. If you are not scanning the rocks and you're putting your strip miners on low density rocks and you're just changing targets quite a bit. So normally what I'll do is I'll go out to the belt and I'll just try to pick the biggest rocks, put the strip miners or the lasers on it, and then that allows me to do less manual change as we're going through the rotation. The other slot here, I usually try to just throw a Hardener in. I don't think we'll be able to get a Tech 2 Hardener in here. It's going to be a little bit tight. Normally what you can do is you can throw a compact in there. We're going to go compact Kinetic, because when we do go down to 0.5, If we're still in Caldari space, we're going to be kind of in Greece's territory. And the reason I don't want to really go to like any other area other than Caldari space, because since we're going to be kind of operating out of Jita for the most part, that's where all of our stuff's going to be like kind of stockpiled. I don't necessarily like Heck as a marketplace. They're overpriced. It's really hard to offload stuff. So just keep that in mind. But this is essentially what we're kind of looking at. And then we'll throw drones in here as well, most likely, which will probably end up being Hornet 2s, because at this point we'll be Omega. So we'll probably throw like, we're not even going to do mining drones. That's just extra training that we can get into in the future. But initially we're not terribly worried about it. As far as rigs go, I mean, there's not a whole lot you can do. What we might end up doing is just kind of throwing some Tech 1s on, because they're kind of cheap. So probably like core defense field extenders or something like that. This brings us up to about 74 million for a fully fitted ship, and it puts us, we'll have to see what the actual number here is. But some things we're going to be worrying about, we can do initially with like skill points that we get from sign-in bonuses. We can get this Industry 5 out of the way. We'll go and queue that up actually. So as you can see here, she's at 6.5 million. We're actually going to go and clear everything in here. And we're going to go and grab in Industry 5. We're going to throw it in there. It's not going to train. But as we get login bonuses, like I said, just any SP from daily login bonuses, we're going to be stacking it towards this to kind of help out a little bit. Just to kind of, like I said, to position ourselves the best we can. So it does take a little while in the beginning for this venture to kind of do its thing, but we're kind of in it for the long haul for the most part. You can also split lasers too. We'll go ahead and do like a scan here. We're just going to look at the rock that we're kind of on. As far as, if you don't know about, the biggest thing I can tell you is there's, at least back in the day, there used to be like what we would call like a big rock day and a small rock day, which usually like alternated. And so if you don't know this already, at reset and downtime happens at 1100 Eve time. So if you look at the very bottom left of your screen, that's going to be your Eve time. At 1100, the whole server will go down for anywhere between 15, probably about 15 minutes or so usually, unless they're doing like some crazy update. But that's the point at which all asteroid belts get basically refreshed. And that's also when daily login rewards are available. That's when we can do the product discovery for the day. It's when a lot of things kind of reset. So, and I don't know how it is now. I haven't been mining in a while. But back in the day, we used to have like what we call a big rock day and a small rock day. So, and they would just alternate. Like these rock sizes would more or less fall into like the small rock category. But then like tomorrow after reset, these could be like 10k or whatever, or anywhere averaging between like 8 to 10k or 11k. So that's just nice having a survey scanner, because like right now we know this rock here is going to die pretty soon. We're going to fill up obviously well before that happens, but it's nice to be able to see the rock density here, because we know when we come back here we can go put lasers on this 7900 cubic meter rock. We put both lasers on it, and we know we will not kill that rock before we fill up the venture. And that's kind of the purpose, right? If you're down here and you're mining double laser mining this like 3300 cubic meter, well, your ship holds 5000, so you know you're going to kill that rock, and you have to like put lasers on another rock. So prioritizing anything over 5000 cubic meter, especially when we're in the venture right now, is ideal. And it's just convenience, because you can obviously like grab 2,000-3,000 cubic meter rocks and put one laser on each, and it'll be just fine. You'll be just fine doing that. For me, just to keep things simple, to only have one locked target as far as rocks go, I just try to grab something that's over 5,000 cubic meter, and we just put both lasers on it and go to town. So we got about 500 cubic meters before we're done here. And I used to kind of just have a bookmark in every belt of the system. I've gotten a little bit more random with how I do things now. I'll mine in a certain system depending on where I'm actually located, But when I come in here, we're going to take all this stuff to Jita. When we come back, we're just going to like right click, go to asteroid belts. We're going to pick a random one here and just kind of diversify as much as we can. When we start getting up to much later in this series, when we're in things like when we start getting into like the Orca and we start doing a lot of just high volume mining, then we'll probably work on clearing entire belts. That's what I used to do. Is we used to just go each belt and we just clear everything, and then by the end of the day there was no rocks left, and that reset at that 1100 downtime we would just go back and start the whole process over again, which is kind of the big push. We used to get quite a bit done that way. I think we used to clear like 9 belts a day. And I think the rocks are actually bigger now that they've increased the size of them. Back then they weren't too dense. All right, we are full. So another thing I do too is always like keeping stuff in Jita. So I just a quick way for me to set desto without having a bookmark is I just open up my asset window and then select. So what I'll do is I'll open the asset window here and I'll just right click and either set desto or jump through Stargate if I'm only one away. That allows me to not have to worry about going into like the location menu and doing a bunch of stuff like that. But because the one thing that you're gonna have to get used to when you're adventure mining is you're going to be running back and forth a lot. Now, if you're in a system where you have like a player Athanor that you can go in, you can compress, cool, even better. It's going to be a while before we actually get into doing our own compression. That's going to be down the road when we start getting into like the porpoise and stuff, which will be really exciting once we get to that point. And I didn't really talk about command ships too much, but yeah, after we get into like probably the retriever, we'll hang on the retriever for a while. And then we might actually segue down, and while we're actually mining in the retriever, we'll probably start training into the porpoise as well. And we'll probably end up training the command ships and the exhumers kind of in parallel with each other. That way, if there's a day where we feel like drone mining, or if there's a day where we feel like just taking like the Mackinac or something out like that, then we'll do that. But this is really and if you're actually dumping into like a player citadel, you don't even have to dock. You just got to warp to it and then open up the cargo deposit and do your thing. So, give you an idea, we've done a little bit of mining prior to starting the recording on this series. But as you can see, we're about 2 million right now. So we're not doing too bad. But essentially, that's all I'm going to be focusing on a lot, really, is just going to be coming in here, dumping ore, going back out, see how many runs we can do a day. I'm probably not going to try to record every bit of it because, as you can tell, it takes a little bit to fill up the venture. But let's go ahead and then now we're just heading right back. I'll probably change up, and that's another thing about being a miner too, is just kind of making yourself a hard target in terms of diversifying your kind of routes and things like that. So in one day we'll probably mine in a system, and we'll be varying the belts that we're mining in that system just to kind of add some unpredictability to our actions. And then the next day we'll probably pick another system to do the same thing. And so there our goal is to like not, if we're being observed, to not be very predictable. And lots of big problem that a lot of high sec miners do, they kind of get into a groove, and what ends up happening is they end up mining in the same system every day. They do the same belts in the same order, and so it's really easy to kind of predict what they're going to be doing. But I think I used to do this. I know this because I was guilty of this back in the day. But I think from just doing a lot of stuff in nullsec and ratting and things like that, it's kind of just I like to do things as random as possible. So what we're going to do is, there's another thing I normally do when I come to the belt again too. I'm going to just do a scan real quick. And we got some dense feldspar here at 3,000. We got 2 of them actually. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to usually approach this one. You can also target from this window too by just holding that control. And so we're going to see 6,000. We have about 12. We have 12k range on these. So we're going to go and grab both these. that one dense rock is actually going to die pretty quick. But the idea is we're just going to grab these off of the grid. Do another scan real quick. Yeah, so 800. That'll be a 2 or 3 cycles, and then it'll be gone. And then I'll get the dents out of here. And then we'll go to the concentrated feldspar. You see the highest rock here is like 2,900 cubic meters. We'll grab that out. And so if I do come back to the same belt over and over and over, I'm essentially just kind of targeting the dense, then the concentrated, and then the regular feldspar. I wouldn't focus too much on scordite. It historically just has a lot lower value. So we're going to leave it. And since we're one jump from Jita, our availability, because of the sec level, is going to be basically feldspar and scordite. Now, obviously, you can go to the agency. Alright, we're out of range on that one, just from our orbit, which is fine. But you can go to the agency here and go to resource harvesting. And I'm going to have to just set to 2 jumps, just so if we are sitting in Jita, we can kind of see. But as you see, 0.9, we have a little bit more availability as far as pyro and everything. But in 1 security, you're basically going to have feldspar, scordite. The reason, and then like if you go down to 0.7, you see it starts to open up a little bit more. You get, that's kind of what we're going to end up going for. 0.7, 0.5. So we have plag, scordite, feldspar, and pyro to just help diversify. It's going to be a little while before we get out to that point because we have to travel further away from Jita for that. And it creates a lot of downtime if we have to go like 6 jumps out with the venture to grab everything and to mine and then come all the way back. We can use a hauler, but I'm not going to try to waste a lot of skill training right now into doing hauler. It's better if we can just kind of hang out near Jita and at least get a few 100 million kind of going. Alright, we need to see... What I'm going to do is I'm going to detarget this one, and I'm going to do another rescan just so I can confirm which one we're on. So we're going to grab this 3000 real quick, and then we'll close in to grab that. It won't even take that long to get that 800 once we get to that point. But essentially just going to be doing a lot of mining this way for a while. I think it would be interesting to see long term kind of how long it takes to kind of like get that omega, and that's why I don't really want to sell a lot of ore, because I want to just like kind of let you guys track the value that we're mining through the ore that we've got stockpiled. Because, you know, if I sell the ore, then, you know, it becomes kind of hard to track, you know, as far as, you know, how much we've gotten from just pure mining. So initially I think our goal is going to be probably to stack about 3 billion in, I know it sounds crazy, 3 billion in ore in Jita, and then we'll use that to pay for omega. And doing that in a venture, I know it's going to take a long time, but that's kind of the enjoyment I have. One of my biggest things about Eve is I like doing things in a way that I don't necessarily have to pay real money for, right? If it takes longer for me to farm and mine towards omega, that is like kind of the challenge, and that's kind of the enjoyment I get out of it. And I think that would be for me at least, I would feel like that's a big accomplishment in order to do that, because that will it might take a long time for us to get that first month of omega, but the time that we're mining and saving for it, we're positioning ourselves either with stockpiling unallocated skill points and things like that. And that's another big strategy too, is if you are one of those people who want to get into a venture and mine yourself all the way to omega, then you can obviously train towards the things that you're going to be using and try to get into the ships. Like, we're going to try to get into that retriever almost immediately after we get omega. And so what you can do with that is every single day that you get SP for logging in, just hold it in your unallocated. Don't even apply it to skill points. Just hold it here, let it hang out, and then just build it up. And then once you turn on omega, you queue everything that you gotta like train to get into that procurer or that retriever, and then you just apply skill points. Obviously you're not going to get a whole lot, but it kind of varies. But that's kind of another little fun aspect of it for me too, is just seeing how much we can do with that. Let's do a rescan, see what we're doing here. It's going a little bit slow, but that's fine. As far as expeditionary frigates, I don't know if we're going to be touching any of that, really. We might branch off a little bit and do some like gas mining and wormholes with this, but really the focus of this series is going to essentially be high-sec mining and showing how much net worth we can actually gain by being just a single character in a single mining ship, just doing the thing. Because it doesn't matter if you're Omega and you're nullsec, you're doing mining. It doesn't matter. Mining is just one of the things that you have to just do. You have to put a lot of time into, a lot of time, because the more you can put lasers on rocks, the higher income you're gonna have. And doing it the way we're doing it for this series, this is the biggest challenge right here. Actually, is just getting past this Omega gate. And I think there's a lot of value in figuring out like a good strategy, a good sustainable strategy to break away from this. And if the only thing we accomplish in this series is being able to fly a retriever and a porpoise, I'm okay with that. And obviously it's going to speed up. Everything is going to go so much quicker once we get past the Omega gate and everything like that. But I hope everybody out there that enjoys mining, I hope you're excited as much as I am for this series. I'm gonna try not to show too many too many of these venture fill up things, because this can get a little tedious as well. But we might have some episodes where we're just kind of chilling and doing 4 or 5 runs out there. But at least for this first episode of the series, I wanted to give you guys kind of the idea and the goals and everything that I'm kind of looking for to get out of this and everything. So if you're following along, feel free to kind of follow my fit and everything like that. I'll put it in the description and everything, and we'll just try to challenge ourselves and get as much accomplished as we possibly can. Anyways, see you guys in the next episode, and peace out.